That's what I'm hoping, right? If we actually understand leverage, is going to give us insights and be able to hopefully teach the people, because you can't just plug and play to be able to go in. People go, oh, you can. People are going to see that. I mean, like, we're educated individuals, and especially the people that you're trying to either market, sell, whatever you're doing, most of us can be able to see it. I mean, I remember when chat first came out, ManyChat and things like that on Facebook. I was like, dude, I see right through this. Now, the people that are buying, I hate to say it, sometimes they're not educated enough to be able to buy your product in the first place, and you're going to get charged back and be able to go through.
Hey everyone, this is Mark de Grasse, the president of Digital Marketer, and this is the podcast that keeps you up to date on everything you need to know when it comes to digital marketing, from the platforms you're focused on to the cutting edge tactics and tools that are working today. Today, our guest is Joshua B. Lee, the dopamine dealer of LinkedIn, and we're going to be talking about the human revolution, specifically about GPT, as well as some AI and the kind of human versus AI that we're starting to see in marketing. So, welcome, Josh.
Thanks, Mark, man. I appreciate it. Looking forward to the conversation. And I mean, dude, it's so new, Chat GPT. I mean, like, I say it probably 50% of the time. I mix up the last 3 characters too.
I was like, it could be several letters.
Could we have picked an easier name for everyone to remember?
Never. Yeah, it's a tech nerd. Some nerd did that. That's what happened. All right, so let's get into it. So, I see it a lot in marketing. It's, I'm more of the creative for our company. So I'm, of course, seeing the new apps coming out. Lensa, I think that was the one I tried. It's doing a really good job. Like, just from a, Photoshop graphic designer perspective, I'm like, that would have taken me 12 hours. And they did it in 10 seconds. So how are you feeling about AI in general? And then how you think it's going to impact marketing in the near future?
Man, we've been talking about this for so long, Mark. I mean, this in the community. I mean, like, you look at, apps like Jasper.ai, right? Friends of ours that started here in Austin, Texas. And then, now we got the Chat GPT, you got Lensa. I mean, like, what they're all continuing to be able to do is continuing to try to be as human as possible, right? When we have humans, and I understand, right? Like, if we want to be able to, people are like, in marketing, I want to be able to scale, I want to be able to grow, so I've got to have all these automations. But as human beings, most of us hate those damn automations that we get. So, like, I mean, these are all the things I continue to be able to look at. It's like, I get it, I understand there's certain aspects to be able to go through, but people forget the you and human, right? Being able to go through. And I mean, like, you look at Lensa, dude, I saw it all, I was like, I'm going to try this out. And then I started looking into it. And I mean, a lot of these apps you look at, like, I've got to upload 20 different faces of mine. All right. How do you open your iPhone? Most times with your face, right? And like all these other things. So, like, you're giving, I know they're not saving it, but I mean, this is where some of this information they're taking in on us. Like, are we going in? I did a post about this the other day. I mean, are we getting closer and closer to, and this will really gauge our audience here, right? Like Terminator, Arnold Schwarzenegger, being able to go through, like, are we giving them and putting so much information in there to be able to go through? Like, we want that marketing, but most of us don't like to be pitched and spammed and marketed to all the time. Like, we go, oh, that's how it works, but we don't like it in general. So I don't know. We'll see how it all plays out.
Well, it's funny because you look at these things and like, oh, Jasper's taken over and all you need is chat, GPT, and that'll do all the work for you. And you're wasting your time if you're trying to do it without this tool. And I think it's just good marketing of the AI company. It's like, of course, they're going to say it's the best and it's as good as a human and it's all these things and make all these claims. And maybe it does do some of the work, but I think it's there's just no replacing the human component, because at the end of the day, we're all super random creatures. Like, we will have thoughts that just come out of nowhere constantly. Like, literal focus on anything is a big, difficult challenge for us. So to think that some machine can make an algorithm that's going to satisfy everything rather than just kind of amplifying or changing or modifying what we think already is silly.
Yeah. No, you're 100% correct. I mean, like, look, we've used Jasper.ai with our company at StandOut Authority, and like, I mean, there's great, but I still have to have a copywriter to be able to go in there and edit and be able to go through and make sure it actually is speaking human rather than what it believes. Because I mean, speaking conversationally with someone, and most people write at people, they don't write in conversation, right? And that's how most of our brains understand information, is conversationally. So I mean, like, that's one of the bigger things that we have to be able to change too. It's funny we're talking about this because, like, you and I were, you're like, oh yeah, let's talk about AI chat and like that. Just last week, all right, and you'll get this because, you know, we both have kids. I was sitting down helping my son. He had to write this article on George Washington, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is like, there's got to be a better way, because like, you're missing it. And I was like, all right, well, first let's see exactly how you're writing, right? I'm like, I'm gonna go drop it into, you know, some people use Grammarly. I use Hemingway.app to be able to see the grade level and what actually kind of shows up. I was like, all right, I kind of see a little bit. I'm like, I'm not taking this a step far enough. I'm like, we have tools at our hand. Well, why don't I just drop this into Jasper? And then I could even do it at an eighth grade level. Because he's like, Dad, if they see that it's above my grade level, you know, I'm going to get caught. I'm like, it's not about, I'm like using tools. I'm going through this. And my wife, Rachel, walks in. She goes, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, dude, I didn't even think about this. This is awesome. And she's like, no, not okay. You can't use all these tools to be able to go in. He needs to learn how to read and write. You cannot go through and allow AI to be able to go in. So I don't know. I mean, it's just,
That wasn't writing it. You were just getting ideas for the essay. It's
exactly
a completely different thing. Also, you know, that's the topic is just so painful, but it's a creative process. And I think the creative process that I usually talk to other creatives about is lost by most people, where it's just like, no, you're just getting the job done. And it's like, we're never just getting the job done. Like, that's boring. And now we have the justification of a machine could do it. So we have to consider that. And it's kind of, you know, I actually learned from my son's school, they use was the new math method, Singapore math. And so the actual inventor of Singapore math was at my son's school, and he explained why Singapore math works. And it wasn't about, you know, this is better than the old way of math. It was about the understanding of Singapore math will give you in math will be useful whether you're using advanced Excel sheets or a calculator or not. Like, Singapore math will still be useful. And so then when I understood that, I was like, oh, I love Singapore math. This actually makes a ton of sense and is useful in the modern world. And so the way I see it is that's probably what's going to happen with all AI.
That's what I'm hoping, right? If we actually understand leverage is going to give us insights and be able to hopefully teach the people, because you can't just plug and play to be able to go in. People go, oh, you can. People are going to see that. I mean, like, we're educated individuals, and especially the people that you're trying to either market, sell, whatever you're doing, most of us can be able to see it. I mean, I remember when chat first came out, ManyChat and things like that on Facebook, I was like, dude, I see right through this. Now, the people that are buying, I hate to say it, sometimes they're not educated enough to be able to buy your product in the first place, and you're going to get charged back and be able to go through this. So, like, when we're talking about marketing, I'd rather have that educated audience that's actually educated, inspired, and drawn in to make that purchase, rather than that's tricked into making that purchase. So if we're using AI for the right reasons to be able to educate ourselves and educate our audience, yeah, you can definitely use it. And I mean, same thing with Singapore math. Like, are we using it in a way that will actually teach us in a useful manner for real world application?
Yeah, I love that point. But I think going back to that human connection side is, I think people's barrier why the AI is so attractive is because they don't want to maybe even think about what they think. So they're just going to default to something that is safe. So in that regards, how do you help marketers and your clients? How do you make them express themselves in a genuine way when they're totally not going to be comfortable with that off the bat?
I mean, dude, here's the whole thing, right? Like, we hear this whole content is king all the time, right? But there's so much content out there, like in this world, like we'll sit down on a Friday night and go, dude, there's nothing to watch. No, there's too much to watch, right? We're overloaded. And it's not content is king, it's more, it's quality is queen, right? What's the quality content that you're kind of putting out there? And so for me, when I look at it, we talk about a couple different ways, right? Like, in my business, and I've been looking at this for a long time, is, based on 20 plus years in the online advertising business. I mean, it was cool. Like, one of my first clients is MySpace, right? Like, being able to go back into those worlds and be able to look at, there is really no B2B or B2C, right? Business to business or business to consumer. Those are just ways to diversify ad spend. it's all H to H, human to human, right? Every company is run by another human being. Most marketers forget that. So if we're talking to humans and we're being able to go in, we need to understand not the LinkedIn algorithm, not the Facebook, not the Twitter, not the all these other algorithms that shift and change. The biggest one that everyone needs to understand and learn is the human algorithm, right? The human algorithm is the one that once you actually understand that, it evolves slowly over time, and it doesn't matter what platform you're on, right? You're connecting. And as human beings, we make decisions based on some degree of love or hate, right? We are emotional beings, right? We do not make a decision based on being indifferent to something or the content or whatever it is. So if you're putting content out there that's indifferent, that it's safe, it's not polarizing, you're not only wasting your time creating it, you're wasting the reader's time. And time is the one resource we can't make more of.
Oh, that's such a good point, because I think you always think from my perspective, like, oh, it's taking me this much time to make a post, instead of like, oh, you're feeding everybody crap. Like, oh, that's even worse than not doing anything in a lot of ways.
Feeds. Yeah, it's like, you know, now these days, like, remember first to get that first email years ago, you're like, oh my God. Now it's like, oh my God, how many emails do I have to read, right? It's the same thing with the feed. We hear it all the time. I mean, like, we spend most of our time, you know, helping our clients doing stuff on LinkedIn. Everyone goes, dude, I hate all the junk on LinkedIn, because that's what they were taught to be able to do. Right. And so people go, well, I'm taught I have to put a whole bunch of content out there to talk about myself, but that's not how humans interact. They don't want to hear you talk about yourself. They want to be able to relate to you. They want to find commonalities with you. And I mean, can an AI really do that? You know, if we kind of pull it back to that aspect, most times, I mean, like, I'll give it, right? Like, I'm going to give you, like, because I have put out so much content over so many years, Mark, apps like Jasper, like, I can put in, you know, the voice tonality, whatever, like, I can put Joshua B. Lee in, and it now can go back, and I've got enough content out there for it to write in my voice to some extent. But not everyone can do that. So, like, if you're going in there and picking Gary Vee as your voice, or Oprah, or whatever it is, like, how is that going to relate to your content? When they meet you, they're going to be like, dude, like, we've seen this. I'm like, you're a digital marketer. I mean, like, you run one of the biggest events, you know, traffic conversion summits every year. And some of these people, they were on stage, and they were different on stage versus off stage. People are like, that's
who are you?
Congruent. So, like, that's the same thing with the content.
That's a great way to put it, because I think people think of the individual pieces of content are just going to be like, oh no, they kind of live on their own life and they'll have their own thing going on, instead of as a, you know, cohesive presentation of who you are that now everybody can see. Yeah,
it's your personal brand. And our personal brands start off, now my kids don't have social media yet, but I mean, I know some people let their kids, I mean, like, I'm gonna be honest, yes, I got them their Facebook names when they were born, so I could actually lock those in, but they haven't ever used those accounts, and they're 10 and 13 now. But I mean, like, we start building our personal brand even before we even realize it on how we're posting content. So how are we showing up, not only online, but offline as well? And it needs to be cohesive across all your content.
I love that. So let's just talk about, like, applications. So somebody's like, okay, I'm ready to be real online. I'm ready to present myself as a online and offline personality. How do they start to define that? Because a lot of people, you know, it's like going out naked. Like, that's an extreme thing to do. How could they get in touch with who they are?
All right. So there's a couple different ways to be able to go through it. One, your personal brand is two things rather than just one. Most people see it as how people see you, right? But it also how it overlaps, and the biggest thing that most people miss it, how you see yourself, right? It's the combination of those two that are truly big, because most people worry about how others see them, but they don't actually look at how they see themselves, right? And being able to combine those two is very, very important to be able to dig into. And so you have to be able to go through and be able to tell those stories. How do you relate? Who you are? What do you do, right? Like, online, most people just talk about their wins, but I wish I could say that I'm, you know, I'm winning at a 100% rate, but it's not that case. I mean, we're real human beings. We have our ups and downs. And so when we're creating content as well online, like, even before we get to content, Mark, I'm like, dude, I mean, like, if it's LinkedIn, I'm going to tell you right now, if you build a lighthouse for everyone to be able to come and find you and look at you, and you haven't built that foundation, right, which is your profile, being able to not just put a resume up there, but to actually tell your career journey, your life story, and to be able to allow people to be able to connect with you in that human element, I look at it this way, right? Like you have to be able to have that profile because that's how people relate before they even get to what, if they want to be able to talk with you, be able to connect with you. So taking the time to be able to do that, it's kind of like, it's funny because I look at it this way, like how do you actually get from the door to the couch, right? Because like if I was knocking on your door, and I don't know about your neighborhood, once a week I have someone that knocks on our door and they're like, hey, we've talked to your neighbors down the street and we're doing their windows, and like we're doing this special. If you sign up right now, I'm like, no, thank you. I'm on a call. Like we're closing the door, right? But dude, if you and I were hanging out on the couch because we have some kind of personal connection out there, and you're like, man, dude, I just got these awesome windows for my house. I mean, it's crazy what I got. I'm listening. You don't have to sell me on it. I'm probably like, dude, like,
please tell me.
Yeah, what's up with your windows, right? Like, tell me more. And so that's that difference, right? Beginning that commonality. So like, that's where we have to be able to start. I mean, building out your profile, one, right? How do you actually shine and how do you show up? Understanding that aspect. And then two, when you're creating content, for me, it's the 10-20-70 method of content. Have you heard of this one before? All right. So a lot of people look at 80-20, right? Being able to go through, we've talked about these different things. The 10-20-70 of content, I think this allows people to be able to show up more as their authentic self, where they're not making it about them, but it is about them. 10% of your content needs to be personal, right? You need to be able to have that human element, right? Human beings connect with other human beings. We look for commonalities. Hey, this is why you and I are on a podcast, right? Because again, we have commonality friends, common backgrounds, being able to go through. So it's not like Facebook, right? Like, and I'm referring to LinkedIn because I spend so much time on there, but I mean, like for me, 10% of your content needs to be about you being able to have those commonalities. Like they don't always need to know when your kids are going to school, but they need to know you have kids, right? Like you and I connect a lot as dads. And so 10% of your content share that personal touch, right? Like, are you a dad? Do you like rock climbing? Do you do this in your personal life, right? We're not talking about your entire life. I don't need to know how naked you are doing this, right? Like you mentioned. 20% of your content should be around your company, but not how you can help someone, but how you've helped someone, right? Like it's a huge difference because most people are like, I can help you make 7 figures, or I can help you lose weight, right? Like with your background in the fitness aspect and like that, but no one cares. Don't tell me how you can. Like, show me how you've helped someone lose 100 pounds. Show me how you've helped someone make 7 figures, because now I can go, ooh, I can see myself in that story. And we only do this 20% of the time too, because we never want to be that person in the room, right? We're all at TNC and we're like, oh, dude, there's that Josh dude again. God, he never shuts up about LinkedIn. Like, we don't want to be that person, especially online. People are always, so 20% of the time only talk about your company. Don't make it more than that. Most people are talking about themselves all the time. It gets exhausting. And the last piece of it too, which allows you to be able to show up, and it allows you really to be able to connect with the right audience and educate and inspire them rather than sell them, is being an aggregator of value, right? Like if you're educating, you're listening, everyone here listening to your podcast, Mark, should not only be just taking it for themselves and understanding it, but taking it, digesting it, and sharing their perspective on what they've learned and being able to go through. We're constant learners, so why not be those educators, right? So 70% of your content should educate your audience. And if you do that, you become a destination website that people will go to every single day to be able to educate themselves enough. And once they're educated enough, guess what they do? They go, oh man, I have an issue. I probably should go to Mark or Josh or whoever for the solution, because you were that person. So I know I gave a couple different things right there, from profile to content to the personal brand, but I just want to make sure
that was a fantastic synopsis, because I think a lot of times it's easy to be like, well, it should be mostly personal, like share about yourself, make people connect with your hobbies and your lifestyle and whatnot. Yeah. And then you have the other people who are like, evidence, show the evidence, show that you can make this happen. And then other people are educational. But I like the 10-20-70 split, because it's enough, because a lot of people don't like sharing anything personal about themselves. And then you're like, yeah, well, it's uncomfortable, a lot of times if you're not used to doing that. And if you're, embody, say, a corporate professional, then you're like, no, this is who I am. This is how I present it, because this is what I'm trying to accomplish. And then they all go evidence-based, or just talk about case studies or whatnot.
Yeah, it's not easy for anyone, Mark. I mean, like, dude, I mean, like, I just went through and for an article I'm writing, it was like, oh, what am I grateful for? What am I want to celebrate for the last year? Man, I'm gonna be honest. It took me 4 different times trying to record it to think of the successes that I wanted to celebrate to the world that happened in my life, not only professionally, but personally. And it was, I'd start and I'd be like, how do I, and it's just not easy for the average human being to be able to do that. So, but it's good for us to be able to share and be able to be proud of the moments within our life and, be able to let other people know what we feel as success.
No, and that was a fantastic post because I saw it, and then I did a podcast about it because I was like, that was a good thing about gratitude, and I need to do that too. But no, it's awesome how the information can flow, because I think a lot of people, when they look at somebody like you and they look at your profile, they're like, oh, well, Josh has it all figured out. He probably is like 90 days ahead, and he's planned everything. He's used his 10-20-70 rule, and it's all perfect. And versus what it probably is, which is a mix between sporadic inspiration, and that's what you post about, and the plan, which is keeps you on track, or that's how I
and
use
a good team. I'm gonna be honest.
team. Yeah.
Can't be the dopamine dealer of LinkedIn without an amazing 20 years of entrepreneurship. Hell, that taught me the biggest thing. Like, if I try and do everything all myself and wear every single hat and have that grip this tight, I'm just going to be the biggest thing slowing me down.
Oh, that's an even better point. Yeah, because I think it's easy to also say, oh, you're just amazing, and that's how you're able to do all this stuff, rather than, no, you're amazing at people, and so you know how to utilize people to help you do the stuff.
That's it.
Which is another fantastic point. So in terms of, say, people with the content, because content's always difficult for people. I don't know what to write about. I don't know what to post about. I don't have pictures. I'm not good on video, so and so forth. Do you have like I don't know, warm-up plan for people who have never done any content on, say, LinkedIn to get started with it?
Yeah, man. I mean, like, look, it's just start, right? I mean, that's the biggest thing. Like with LinkedIn too, you want to have 3 lines of content. How can you actually just go through and look in your everyday life? And we forget, especially if you're an entrepreneur, like there's things that we take for granted, right? Because we look at it every single day that we don't realize. Like, if you show someone, dude, I remember one time I was at an event, and this person got up there, and this is a couple of years back, but they were like, I'm going to teach you the power of a digital signature. I'm like, if people are writing it down, eating it up, I'm like,
and you're like, what?
Dude, do we just go back like 20 years? I'm like, what's going on here? But I forget, right? I'm inside the box. And we all forget that, right? Like, we forget how much value it is. I mean, I look at it as like, everyone in this world, like, if you could share how you got to where you are, I mean, even if you're the manager of McDonald's, you were like, hey, you know what? For $1, I'm going to be able to show you exactly how I got to where I was. Think if you just got a half a percent of the population to pay you that $1, you're a millionaire.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you that many people are not at that level and would love to be where you're at. But we go and we look at it, go, oh, I'm only here. I've only done this. And we forget that, dude, I wouldn't be here because of all those different things. I wouldn't go through. So think about that content, what's going through. And I mean, in content wise, look, you have this powerful, amazing thing in front of you called your phone, right? Most of us are consuming content, but I mean, dude, the cameras, the audio, everything. I mean, like I was telling you, like I'm using now with my MacBook, it's got the auto connect for my iPhone, and it's got an amazing camera. I'm like, dude, this upgraded my entire setup. I'm used to using my phone. And so those are those things you can kind of go through and be able to share. And if it's on LinkedIn, video is not super powerful right now on there, but dude, I'd rather you be sharing something than nothing. You can't just go and go, I'm just going to share one post a week or one post a month. You want to be doing at least 2 to 3 times a week, and just put something out there that go through white paper, right? Like go through Canvas out there. I mean, there's so many tools that are out there right now. I don't want someone to overthink it. It's better to get started, because in this world, we have social media. When I started my company, it wasn't as easy to be able to go in and just ask the world, hey, what do you think? Because that, now I can go out there and I can A/B split test all these other things for free with social media and be able to understand exactly what the audience wants. Do a poll, right? I mean, LinkedIn polls are huge to be able to do. You do on Instagram, all these different aspects, and people will tell you exactly what they want to hear about and why.
No, Yeah, I mean, they always seem so obvious tips, but I love how you mentioned that about, as you become more of a professional, you start disconnecting from your target audience because now you're up here and their knowledge level is down here, and it's easy to forget about that gap between the two, and then you're like, well, of course they know about this obvious thing that I've done for 20 years, and it's like, nope, they don't. Here's how to make a video with your phone.
With everything like Chat GPT, right? Like you and I were talking about, we're like, but like, dude, I guarantee there's probably people listening to this podcast like, oh, dude, I haven't heard about it yet. Even though it seems like it's everywhere, because of the people that are in our feeds, because you and I, surround ourselves with a lot of people in that space. So like, that's why we see it. But there might be people that in this world that guarantee you, my mom, if I said that to her, she'd be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, what does that even mean? I don't even can't conceptualize of what the tool is, much less
So
a specific one.
Small, start easy, everything, right? Like go through, like this is how I tie my shoes, and people are like, dude, awesome.
Wait, you go around.
It's crazy when you kind of go through and think about that. Like, oh, dude, I would know. Like, but I don't know. Now I want to be able to do a video and just be like, oh, this is how you tie a shoe, and like just see how many people are like, wow, that was cool.
Like, wait. I didn't know.
It does get past the fact that this is just adding content. And that's what I want everyone to understand is like, I'm just joking around about just putting out content for content's sake. Again, when I talk about content isn't king anymore, quality is queen, I want to bring that back is if it doesn't spark emotion in you, why is it going to spark an emotion in somebody else? And if we are emotional beings making decisions emotionally, if you're going to put out content on there, if it doesn't make you smile, make you mad, make you cry when you're putting it out there, make you scared to put it out there, then you're wasting your time and you're wasting the people potentially that would read its time. So don't even go to that point. Think about how, and I ask my writers as we work with everyone, I look at myself like, what am I feeling when I write this? If it's nothing, I probably need to stop and reset.
No, and I think just circling back to our whole start with the AI discussion is if you think you could build your personal brand using nothing but AI tools and it's just going to write everything for you and that's going to somehow connect with an audience that you obviously don't care about, then you're probably going to be disappointed and you're going to circle back to what we're talking about now, which is just being a genuine human who has given some thought to content and posted it and then engaged with it. Save the AI for when you are, professional enough to appreciate and use it properly, maybe.
Yeah. Well, and Mark, I mean, I'll just throw this in there, brother, because I mean, I know we want to be kind of making sure you and I could probably, as we already know, we could talk for hours kind of going through this stuff. But I mean, I want everyone to kind of think about this as well is, when you're kind of going through, are you just creating content for sales? Right? Like if that's all you're trying to be able to do, that's exhausting. And it's just a one-to-one relationship kind of going through there. What we do is we look, for our clients and being able to go through it, I push everyone to really kind of go through and try to build advocates first and allow the byproduct to become clients, because an advocate is so much more powerful than a client. So when we're creating the content, what's going to be able to make the people either love or hate you, right? Be able to go through that will create advocacy, because one advocate can bring you 100 clients. And that's so much more powerful. So think about that as you continue to, I guarantee you a chatbot's not going to make you advocates because they're just kind of going through and they're giving stats and details and statistics and all this other kind of stuff like that. The genuine human emotion of how we feel, how we write, how we connect is going to be lost, at least in today's age.
Oh, yeah. Well, it'll get worse, if people start thinking that the AI could do being a human for you, because it just can't. And what makes the AI work is the humanness that you've already shown. So, if you're really going to be serious about using that tool, even you have to go through even more in-depth process of being genuine to train the thing how to do it properly. So
Yep.
Either way, be human, connect with people, and there's no cheat for that aspect of life.
Let's just, like I say all the time, man, I mean, like just do the things that your mother taught you how to be able to do online. That's what I do, right? I'm not trying to be able to do something different. I mean, I'm doing the things that my mom taught me how to be able to treat other human beings, just doing it online, right? Like we forget about that. We go, oh, it's just it's just, I don't see these people, but they are human beings. And once you start understanding that, you'll start really creating massive opportunity, that's drawn to you rather than you always having to go out and find it.
That's a fantastic point. And for me, just personally, like when I went through my whole, personal journey, I found that, people weren't sharing information with me because I was sharing nothing about myself. So of course everybody's boring because you have no connection. There's nothing there. So that's an excellent way to put it. It is. Well, it's a bad way to go through life. Just be open, connect with people. It's not going to go perfect all the time, but for the most part, you'll be a lot happier.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you're trying to go for perfection, it doesn't exist, right? We're all imperfectly perfect just the way we are. And even in marketing, I mean, like, dude, I'd rather see something that's maybe a spelling error. Maybe there's someone just trying to be able to go through, because when I see perfection or overproduced content, the first thing I think of, oh, I'm about to get pitched. Oh, it's a commercial, right? Because we've been conditioned at this point. There's always things that kind of go through. When you look at online and the marketing aspect, even when I started going through, like I remember when, Google Ads, those first two, first two listings on there, people clicked on them, like they're like, oh, and then we all realize, and it's rare that someone goes in and clicks on a sponsored ad, right? Now most times they skip past it unless they're like, screw this dude. I want to make them pay $2 for the click.
They want the product sometimes.
Or they're going through, but I mean, like a lot of times we miss that thing. So like we understand. And so that's the biggest thing I want everyone to think about, right? Like as human beings, we pick up on patterns, we pick up on sequences, and eventually we'll learn better and be able to go through. But the one thing that we don't try to outdo is being able to connect with other human beings. And when you do that online, you do that through your marketing, you do that through things, it will stand the test of time. You will create not only opportunity immediately, but legacy down the line.
I agree. Well, and I think that's a perfect wrap-up point. And I think we'll dive into more stuff next episode. But I love talking to you, Josh. I think your points are perfect, and you sum it up in a way that makes it very simple to understand. And that's a difficult thing to do. So thank you.
I appreciate it, Mark.
Now, where can people find out more about you and gain some help on LinkedIn, maybe?
Yeah, surprise. I mean, like people can go in on LinkedIn and be able to kind of go through and connect with me there. I do always love when someone reaches out and says, hey, I listen to Mark and this is what I love about his podcast. Don't send me just that blank connection request, because I'm not playing Pokemon online, right? Like I'm not trying to collect them all. That's what messes most people's LinkedIn up. Like I want to be able to understand the person, because I only get to know them, but I get to know you as well. And you and I get to build a better relationship. So that's always a great way to be able to do it, man. Find me, Joshua B. Lee on LinkedIn.
Fantastic. Well, thanks again, Josh. Really appreciate it. And thank you so much for listening. Be sure to hit that follow button so you get notified when all of our new episodes release. And please share this with that friend who is clueless about digital marketing. And don't forget to visit digitalmarketer.com, where you can access all of our courses, certifications, and training programs. Thanks again, everyone, and we'll see you next time.